Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you save for retirement, the goalposts keep moving farther away? You're putting money aside every year, maybe maxing out your TFSA, watching it grow tax-free, and yet when you look at the cost of living in retirement, housing, healthcare, groceries, travel, it just doesn't seem like enough anymore. What if I told you that even though the government gave you another $7,000 in contribution room for 2026, that amount might actually be losing ground to the very thing it's supposed to protect you from, inflation? Today on CPP News and Finance Updates, we're diving deep into why the 2026 TFSA $7,000 limit might not keep up with your real retirement needs, and what you can do right now to make sure you're not left short when you need that money the most. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on Canadian pensions, taxes, TFSAs, RRSPs, and smart money moves for retirement. My name is your host, and today we're talking about one of the most powerful tools in your retirement toolkit, the tax-free savings account. But there's a quiet problem building that many Canadians aren't talking about enough. First, let's get the basics straight so we're all on the same page. The Canada Revenue Agency officially confirmed that the annual TFSA contribution limit for 2026 is $7,000. That's the same as it was in 2024 and 2025. If you've been eligible since the TFSA launched in 2009 and you've never contributed a dime, your total available room right now is around $109,000, depending on your age and when you turned 18 or older. That room grows every January 1st by the new annual limit, plus any unused room from previous years, and plus any withdrawals you made in the prior year. They get added back the following January. So on paper, it looks steady. $7,000 more space every year. Tax-free growth forever. Withdrawals anytime without tax penalties. And you can recontribute what you pull out later. It's one of the best deals Ottawa has ever given us. But here's where the concern creeps in. That $7,000 isn't adjusting fast enough to match the rising costs we're all facing. The TFSA limit is indexed to inflation. The CRA uses the Consumer Price Index to calculate it, rounds to the nearest $500, and announces it in the fall for the next year. It went up to $6,500 in 2023 after being $6,000 for a couple years, then jumped to $7,000 in 2024 and stayed there. But look at recent inflation numbers. In 2025, we saw the annual average CPI around 2.1%, and late in the year it ticked up to 2.4% in December. Projections for 2026 suggest inflation hovering around 2% or slightly higher in some months, especially if energy prices or housing costs stay sticky. Now, 2% might sound tame compared to the 6 to 8% peaks we saw a few years back, but over time it compounds. Let's do some quick math to show why this matters for retirement. Suppose inflation averages just 2.5% per year over the next 20 years. That's a reasonable long-term estimate based on Bank of Canada targets and historical trends. A dollar today will be worth about 61 cents in purchasing power 20 years from now. Flip that around. To buy what costs $7,000 today, you'll need roughly $11,500 in future dollars just to have the same real contribution power. But the TFSA limit isn't jumping like that. It stayed flat at $7,000 for 3 years running. Even when it does increase, say to $7,500 in 2027 as some forecasts suggest based on cumulative CPI, it only goes up in $500 chunks. That means years of flatlining while your living costs creep higher. For someone in their 40s or 50s planning to retire in 25 years, this erosion can add up to tens of thousands in lost real savings power if you're only relying on the standard limit. Think about your retirement expenses. The average Canadian retiree needs about 70–80% of their pre-retirement income to maintain their lifestyle. But costs like long-term care, prescription drugs not fully covered by provincial plans, home modifications for aging in place, or even just higher utility bills and food prices hit harder later in life. If housing in your area has risen 4 to 6% annually in many provinces, or if healthcare out-of-pocket costs keep climbing, that fixed $7,000 annual addition starts looking smaller every year. Here's a real-world example. Let's say you're 45 right now, planning to retire at 65. You max your TFSA every year at whatever the limit is. Over the next 20 years, if the limit averages around $7,500, accounting for some small increases, you'd add roughly $150,000 in new contributions. But if inflation averages 2.5%, the real value of those contributions in today's dollars drops significantly. The last $7,500 you contribute in year 20 might only feel like $4,500 in today's buying power. That's a stealth tax on your savings ability. Worse, many Canadians aren't even maxing the current limit. Surveys show only about 15 to 20% of eligible people fully contribute each year. For lower and middle income earners, especially in high-cost provinces like Quebec, BC, or Ontario, coming up with $7,000 after taxes, rent or mortgage, groceries, and kids' activities feels impossible. And if wages aren't keeping pace, real wage growth has been flat or negative in stretches, the gap widens. So why does this matter more for retirement than other savings goals? Because the TFSA is uniquely flexible and powerful for long-term growth. Unlike RRSPs, which are taxed on withdrawal and tied to your income for deduction limits, the TFSA lets investments compound tax-free indefinitely. You can use it for anything: stocks, ETFs, GICs, even high-interest savings, without ever paying tax on gains, dividends, or interest. It's ideal for building a tax-free income stream in retirement to supplement CPP and OAS, especially since OAS clawback thresholds aren't indexed aggressively either. But if the contribution room isn't growing in real terms, you're effectively capped on how much you can shelter from taxes over your lifetime. For high earners or those with big inheritances, this might not sting as much. They can use non-registered accounts or corporate structures. But for the average working Canadian relying on TFSA, RRSP, and CPP to retire comfortably, every dollar of lost real contribution power hurts. Now, before you start worrying too much, let's talk solutions. You don't have to sit back and accept this. Here are practical steps to fight back against the eroding limit. First, maximize what you have right now. Check your exact contribution room on your CRA, My Account, or Notice of Assessment. If you have unused room from past years, use it aggressively. Even if you can't do the full $7,000 in 2026, contribute what you can early in the year, so it starts growing tax-free sooner. Time in the market beats timing the market. Second, prioritize high-growth investments inside your TFSA. Since space is limited, make every dollar count. Diversified equity ETFs, dividend aristocrats, or index funds tracking the TSX or S&P 500 have historically returned 7 to 10% annually over long periods. At 8% average return, $7,000 contributed today could grow to over $32,000 in 20 years, tax-free. Compare that to a savings account at 3 to 4%. The difference is massive. Third, consider strategic withdrawals and recontributions if it fits your plan. If you need money short-term, pull from TFSA without tax hit, then recontribute the amount next year. This effectively gives you a do-over on room if markets dip or life happens. Fourth, look at spousal or family strategies. If your spouse has lower income or more unused room, contribute to their TFSA for income splitting in retirement. Attribution rules don't apply to TFSAs like they do to some other accounts. Fifth, don't neglect other vehicles. The RRSP still offers a tax deduction now and grows tax deferred. For 2026, the RRSP limit is based on 18% of your 2025 earned income up to around $33,000 or so. Way more room if you're a higher earner. Use RRSP for high-income years, TFSA for flexibility later. And don't forget about the First Home Savings Account if you're younger, or FHSA if buying a home is still in play. It has its own $40,000 lifetime room with tax benefits. Sixth, advocate if you want bigger change. Some financial experts and groups have called for the government to uncap or accelerate TFSA indexing, or introduce catch-up provisions like the U.S. Roth IRA has for older savers. Write to your MP, join finance forums, or follow channels like this one for updates on policy shifts. Finally, run your own numbers. Use online calculators from CRA, banks, or tools like the Globe and Mail's TFSA Room Estimator. Project your needs. Estimate retirement expenses using 4% safe withdrawal rule or more conservative 3%. Factor in CPP, average around $900 a month now, but indexed. OAS, around $700 a month at 65, clawed back over $90K income, and any pensions. See where the gaps are and backfill with TFSA growth. The bottom line? The 2026 TFSA limit of $7,000 is still an incredible benefit. Don't overlook it. But in a world where inflation quietly chips away at purchasing power, relying solely on that annual addition without maximizing growth or using every tool available could leave your retirement shorter than you planned. You deserve a comfortable retirement. You've worked hard, paid taxes, contributed to the system. Don't let a stagnant limit slow you down. Start today. Log into your CRA account, review your room, make that contribution if you can, and invest wisely. If this video helped you understand the TFSA challenge better, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend or family member who's saving for retirement, and drop a comment below. Have you maxed your TFSA yet? What's your biggest worry about retirement costs? I read every comment and love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching CPP News and Finance Updates. Stay smart with your money, protect your future, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll break down the latest on CPP enhancements or RRSP deadline strategies. Whatever's hitting headlines. Take care and keep building that wealth tax-free.